Hello, fellow book lovers. Welcome to my brand new channel, The Lollipop Life. My name is Shona Gibson. I had been wanting to start a YouTube channel for a while, or a Booktube channel, actually a YouTube channel that actually has Booktube as part of it. And I decided, well, what better time now than to dive in? So I am diving in. My first video, I've decided I'm going to do the new to Booktube tag that was initially started by Between the Chapters. I will link hers below, and let's just dive right in and get started with it. First question is, where am I joining from? I am currently right now in Texas. I would not say that that's my favorite place, although we have been here for 10 years. It'll be 10 years in August. We moved here from the mountains of Georgia, and before that we were in Florida. I would definitely call the East Coast my home. However, Texas is the longest place I've ever lived anywhere. I am a Navy brat, and the house we live in actually this month makes the longest time I've ever lived in any one structure, and that's been 5 years. But I am in Texas, North Texas, DFW area to be exact. How old am I? I am between 40 and 50, closer to 50. And when I first discovered Booktube, I had a really hard time finding folks in that age group. And while I actually do enjoy listening to quite a few booktubers younger, and I do read a lot of YA and YA fantasy, I also do enjoy a lot of contemporary fiction, biographies, memoirs. I am a true crime addict, as a matter of fact, and I want to be able to talk about it. And while there are folks in my age set out there, and I have found them and I enjoy them, there's not a lot. And I thought, well, why not just throw my contribution into the hat? So here I am. Why did you join Booktube? Oh, for a variety of reasons. I mentioned a couple already, but the other reason is I am a voracious reader. I love to read, and I'm not necessarily surrounded by a lot of people that like to read. I do belong to 2 book clubs that I started where we meet in person in the area, and even they don't read as much as I do. So I wanted to, just be a part of a community and meet some people that I could talk and obsess about books with. What is the meaning behind your channel name? A Lollipop Life. I am obsessed with the science of happiness. I read every new book about happiness out there. I take every free class on MOOC about the science of happiness. I'm obsessed with it. And one of the studies that I came across when learning about the science of happiness was called the lollipop effect. And basically the lollipop effect is where we can create a positive effect either for ourselves or for someone else. And by doing so, it helps us or someone else to perform better. So they say you can prime yourself to think more creatively and process information faster and more effectively by simply thinking of a happy memory or giving yourself a guilt-free treat such as a lollipop. And actually in the studies, they looked at doctors, and doctors were, I can't remember the statistic, but they were 3 or 4 times more likely to give a correct diagnosis after they were given a lollipop. And they didn't even have to eat the lollipop. It was just the effect of receiving the lollipop helped them give correct diagnosis, as well as 4-year-olds were found when they were given something positive or asked to think about something happy, they performed better. And high schoolers on standardized tests, when they were asked to think of their happiest memory right before a standardized test and SATs and things like that, they performed better. And I just love that idea. It's something so simple. And lollipop, I love that word. Some people have favorite words. Lollipop has become one of my favorite words. And I just like how a lollipop life flows, a happy life. A lollipop loads just flows off. So that's how I came up with it. I also, one of my goals this year is to start a blog, and it'll be kind of a blog that covers everything, but it'll be about happiness in general. And I wanted something that was easy, a Lollipop Life reads or a Lollipop Life runs. I'm on a journey to run a marathon, so it's just a way is a way to document all the things that bring joy and happiness in my life. So that's how the Lollipop Life came about. What types of books do you read or want to talk about on your channel? So I read very diversely, and that hasn't always been the case. In my high school life, it was a lot of romance, Daniel Steele. I remember quite vividly reading a lot of Daniel Steele. And back then, in my adult life and young adult, new adult life, I would get stuck on one author, and that's all I'd read. I would not read very diversely. So for a long time, it was Daniel Steele. And then I came off of Daniel Steele, and then it was like James Patterson and Dean Koontz. But then I would only read those forever. And then I got married and had babies. And, you know, in that season of life, it was very hard being a full-time mom and working full-time out of the home to find time to read. But I'm in a new season of life where my children don't need me as much, and I have lots of time to read. And one of the promises I made myself was to read more diversely in genre, authors, even things like reading authors from other countries, books in translation, things like that. And my life in the last 2 or 3 years has been so enriched by all the different books and genres and authors that I've read and been introduced to. My mind has opened much more. I've always been pretty open-minded, but I've just learned so much more. So I read very diversely, contemporary fiction, YA fiction, YA fantasy, some adult fantasy. I find I like the YA fantasy better. I don't know why that is. Memoirs and biographies. I'm more memoirs than biographies. I'm finding that I love a lot. Also, true crime. I'm a true crime addict. That does stem from my college year, my first year of college at the University of Florida. We had a serial killer on the loose, and one of the victims was my next door neighbor. It was very gruesome, but I became obsessed with true crime at that. See, nature writing. I've just read a few books around nature that I loved. I've just narrative nonfiction. So I read very, very widely. I do like mysteries and thrillers. Science fiction, not so much, but I have read some science fiction that I do enjoy. So it depends on the type of science fiction. I've allowed the stereotype science fiction limit my mind or my willingness to try science fiction, but I'm stepping out of that a little bit. So probably a little bit of everything on here, actually. Who are some of my favorite authors? That's like asking to pick your favorite kid. Let's see. So James Baldwin is one of my favorites. I discovered him a couple years ago, and what I love about him, even though he is a gay man of color writing in the 60s, many of his themes are still so relevant today. You can pick up a book, and if you take all the context, the time that it was written, context out of it, a lot of it you would think was happening today. And while we think we've come so far in some of these issues, we really haven't. I mean, we're making baby steps. So I love him. His prose is beautiful, and he was really a pioneer and kind of a trailblazer, talking some of those more taboo issues back then, not just civil rights, but LGBTQ issues, things like that. I really like James Baldwin. Also, some more contemporary. One of my other favorite authors, actually, by the way, is Zora Neale Hurston. She's just got beautiful prose, and I love her stories. Some of the more contemporary authors I love, Kristen Hanna is a favorite. Jodi Picoult is a favorite. I just recently discovered John Cohen when I picked up Harry's Trees this year. I only bought that book because of the cover, nothing more. I thought it was beautiful, and I loved the book. He's also very interactive. Like, if you tag him in an Instagram post, he will write not just a line back, but a story back. So I picked up a couple of the other books, and I really like his writing. Let's see. I do enjoy, who is the dude? It's not off the top of my head, but he wrote Devil in the White City. Does a lot of narrative nonfiction. Isaac Storm, I think, was the other one. I like him a lot, actually. Kristen Hanna, Jodi Picoult, Jennifer Weiner. That's all I can think right now. There are lots more, but those are some of my favorite authors. I just discovered he's only written one fiction novel, but I love him. His name is David Pena. He wrote Bang. It's a great book. It's a great border story, actually. Oh, Luis Alberto Urrea. I love him too. Everything I've ever read of his, I love. What is the last book you read? So it's Reading Rush Week. I'm actually trying to participate, and so I've read a lot. The one I just finished like 10 minutes ago was Barracoon, the story of the last black cargo, and it was heartbreaking. I mean, our slave history is already heartbreaking and horrible, but this Zora Neale Hurston interviewed back in the 20s the last surviving slave that came over on the last slave ship from Africa. And so we hear the story of how he was captured and the history behind that, which is more than I knew. There's a lot of politics behind how they were chosen in Africa to be sold, for all intents and purposes, to Americans to come over here. But it tells the story of his capture, the conditions on the ship, his life as a slave. He was only a slave for 5 years before emancipation. But then the story of, how he became free and his family story. What was heart-wrenching is this man really, he missed his home. He missed Africa, and it was with her. It was really good. It was short, but it was really good. So that's the last one I just finished. I finished another one. It was a silly one. I don't normally read cozy mysteries, but I have a corgi, and a friend recommended this cozy mystery called The Cozy Corgi Mysteries. So I read the first book in that one, called Cruel Candy, and it was okay. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It's just one of those 3-star books. And right before that, I finished Jennifer Weiner's Mrs. Everything, which I loved, actually. So I recommend that one. What am I currently reading? I am currently in the middle of The Memory Keeper's Daughter. I'm using that for the book to movie adaptation in the Reading Rush prompt. It is also my book club pick. We meet this Sunday, so I have to finish it. And I'm a little more than halfway through, but that's what I'm currently reading right now. So, what I use for bookmarks. I use anything and everything when I have to. Post-it notes. I've even used binder clips and paper clips. I do use bookmarks. This is a bookmark from my independent bookstore, and what I love about them is this is artwork done by a local artist, and they contract with him, and he creates artwork to be included on bookmarks. And every time you buy a book at my local bookstore, which is in Terabane Books, you get a bookmark with the original artwork of this local artist, which I think is really, really cool. And so this one, they're all different, but this is the Interrobang logo, and the artwork is an interpretation of that Interrobang logo. I have one that is the Dallas skyline that the artist did. So I think that's really cool, actually. I also get page 1 boxes, so I'll use my page 1 bookmarks, and they have great little quotes on the back. People give me bookmarks, so I use those. But again, like I said, I'll use anything and everything I have available. I'm not picky. I also do dog ear my books. I have no problem dog ear my books. I'll dog ear a lot when I don't have a highlighter and there's a quote on a page that I want to remember. So, show you my current TBR pile. It is out of control. I mean, I counted how many unread books I have. 167. And so as far as I'm concerned, all those books, and those are just physical books. Those aren't the ones on my Kindle and my Audible account. So all those books are my TBR pile, and they're kind of all over my house. As you can see, I use books to decorate. I mean, there's some up there, and I switch those out for seasons. So at Christmas time, I put red and green cover books. I've got books all over the place. So just imagine 160 books, 67 books stacked high. I have lots. My current TBR, which do you prefer, hardcover or paperback, ebooks, physical, owning, or borrowing? Okay. Definitely hardcover is my preference because I like to collect books. I especially like first editions, real first editions with the edition line in the book, not the book of the month editions because they're mass produced and they don't have that first edition distinction, I guess is the right word, in those books. So I really do love my hardcover books. I prefer owning rather than borrowing. I don't know why, for a variety of reasons. And I don't like waiting to borrow a book, part of the reason. I don't really like ebooks. I'll read them, but I don't like them. I definitely prefer physical books, and I do like audiobooks. And a lot of times I'll listen to my nonfiction on audiobooks. Definitely consistency and the technical aspects, but I have no idea. My brother's a film producer. I should just send him all my measly little clips and have him clip together my videos. But I think that's gonna be my biggest challenge, and consistency, and kind of knowing what to post. I also, this in general is uncomfortable for me. Just being in front of the camera like this is very, very, very uncomfortable. Oh, I missed was what book or series got you into reading. And I can tell you, back in 4th grade, I remember this distinctly. My name is Shona, S-H-O-N-A. And back in 4th grade, back in the 70s, when all my friends could get little barrettes and keychains and coffee mugs and notebooks with their names on them, and I couldn't, it was horrible for me. And one day we got our Scholastic sheet, and there was a book on it called Searching for Shona. I didn't care what it was about. It had my name on it. So I ordered it, and I got it. And I still have it. Here's my book, Searching for Shona. It's historical fiction. It turned out to be really good. It's World War II. I actually reread it every couple of years or so. It's a fast read now. It's World War II. 2 girls are leaving Edinburgh at the beginning of World War II, and on the train station they decide that they're going to switch places. Marjorie is one of the girls. She's well off. She's actually on her way to well-off relatives in Canada, and Shona is an orphan who's off to the countryside in England, I believe, and they decide to trade places, not knowing that the war was going to last 6 or 7 years. So it's that story, and it actually is really good. I did check. You can find them used on Amazon. It is a really, really good book. But this is, I remember, is what really got me into reading back then. And then I had an uncle who every year for my birthday, I would always get a box set. So think all the normal box sets. I got Judy Blume. I got Little House on the Prairie. I got the Anne of Green Gables series. I got the Babysitter's Club. I mean, every year I would get a box set of books. So he really fostered that love of reading. And that's all I have. I am looking forward to this, and I will put a whole bunch of links down on the bottom that I mentioned. The original book tag, new to Booktube tag. I'll also put a link to an article on the Lollipop Effect if you guys are interested, and all my links to my social media Goodreads accounts. Anyways, looking forward to getting to know all you guys. Bye.